The Arizona sun burned like a copper coin over Dry Willow, a town that looked half dead already. Its dirt streets split and cracked like old leather, flies buzzing around horses tied to hitching posts, the sound of a blacksmith's hammer carrying through the dry air. Eden stood before the warped door of a saloon called the Silver Comet, her hand clutching the handle of a worn carpet bag. Her heart pounded, but she knocked anyway. Inside came a voice, rough as sandpaper. "We're closed." "I'm not here for whiskey," Eden called, fighting the sting of dust in her throat. "I'm here for the job." The door creaked open. A man filled the frame, tall as a doorway and broad across the shoulders. His dark hair fell in front of storm-gray eyes, his face shadowed with stubble, his shirt faded nearly to threads. He didn't offer a smile, just his name, Asa Crow. "Eden Hale," she said, meeting his gaze without flinching. "You answered the notice. I can cook. Can you now?" His eyes ran over her patched dress and scuffed boots. "This ain't no church social kitchen. Good thing I ain't no church social cook, Mr. Crow." Something flickered in his expression, maybe surprise, maybe a trace of amusement. With a jerk of his head, he let her in. "One meal. You cook one meal that satisfies the regulars, the job's yours. You fail, you walk." "I'll take it," she answered, lifting her chin. The Silver Comet was no better inside. The air smelled of sweat and smoke, the tables scarred from knives and spurs. 3 rough men sat at a corner table with whiskey glasses in hand. Their laughter slowed when they saw her. One leaned over with a sneer. "Look here, boys." Crow's hired himself a pretty little hen. Hope that hen knows how to fry more than eggs. Eden ignored them and followed Asa into the kitchen. The sight nearly made her laugh. It was more pit than kitchen. A greasy stove sulked in the corner, shelves sagged with dented pans, and the only potatoes looked older than the town itself. "This what I'm working with?" she asked. "Problem?" Asa asked. "Not if you've got salt, lard, and a little flour." He pointed to a cupboard. "Pumps out back. Temperamental. Like everything else here." He turned to leave, then paused. "Those men out there, they've run off 3 cooks in 2 months. They're waiting for you to fail. Then they'll be disappointed," she said, tying on her mother's faded blue apron. Left alone, Eden moved with quiet speed. She checked the food supplies. Old beans, weary potatoes, salt pork, and a miracle in a jar of molasses. She scrubbed the stove until it breathed again, coaxed the fire to life, and set the beans to boil. She chopped potatoes, found wild sage behind the building, and mixed cornbread sweetened with molasses. Even managed to throw together an apple pie from withered fruit and her mother's trick, vinegar to brighten the taste. By supper, the kitchen smelled like heaven. She carried bowls of bean soup and golden cornbread to the 3 men. They eyed the food like it might bite them. The first spoonful brought silence, the second, a grunt. By the third, one muttered, "Tastes like my mama's cookin', back in Missouri." "Better," another corrected, stuffing his mouth. More men drifted in, drawn by the smell, and soon the Silver Comet buzzed with talk and laughter. Eden worked until her arms ached and her back screamed, but she kept moving. When the last customer stumbled out into the night, Asa appeared from the shadows, room above the kitchen's empty. He said, "Roof leaks, wind comes through the walls, but it's got a bed and a lock." "What's the rent?" she asked, wary. "Keep cooking like that. We'll call it even." She studied his face, waiting for the catch, but his eyes stayed unreadable, storm-gray and distant. Finally, she nodded. "I'll take it." That night, Eden climbed the rickety stairs. The room was drafty and bare, but the door locked, and the bed was clean. Through the window, stars stretched endless over the desert. She unpacked her few treasures: a wooden spoon split down the handle, a tattered book, and a photograph she couldn't bear to leave behind. She lay down, still in her dress, one hand around the spoon tucked under her pillow. Below, she heard Asa moving through the kitchen, checking doors, testing windows, the soft click of a rifle being cleaned. The sound should have been unsettling, but it made her feel safer than she had in years. The wind whispered through the walls. A coyote howled in the distance. And for the first time in months, Eden slept behind a locked door. But outside, unseen in the shadows, another man held a letter in his hands and smiled coldly. Trouble had followed Eden to Dry Willow, and it was only waiting for the right time to strike. 3 weeks had passed since Eden came to Dry Willow. The Silver Comet had never been so busy. Cowboys, miners, and drifters came from miles just to eat her food. Her hands were blistered, her feet raw, but business boomed, and Asa Crow kept his word. Her room upstairs was hers, safe and locked. For the first time in years, Eden dared to believe she had found a place to belong. That belief cracked on a Tuesday afternoon when the past walked through her door. She was elbow-deep in bread dough when she heard it, the sound of polished boots on wooden boards, too fine for a place like Dry Willow. Her knuckles froze. She didn't have to turn around to know who it was. Well, came the smooth, snake-oil voice, Eden Hale. She pressed her fists into the dough, flour rising like smoke in the sunlit kitchen, Mr. Rook. Her voice was flat. If you want lunch, you'll need to wait like everyone else. Silas Rook stepped into the kitchen, the air turning cold despite the heat of the stove. He was, as she remembered, dark hair slicked back, mustache sharp as needles, velvet coat that cost more than most men made in a year. And that smile, all teeth and no warmth, is that any way to greet an old friend? We were never friends. No, he drawled, circling the table like a wolf. But your mother and I had an understanding. Quote, Eden's jaw clenched. My mother's dead. Yes, tragic. Fire is such a cruel thief. He picked up her wooden spoon from the counter, turning it in his manicured hands. Though I hear the smoke takes you before the flames. The dough under her hands might as well have been his throat. State your business, or get out. My business. I'm here to collect what's owed. Your mother's debt didn't die with her. He pulled a folded paper from his coat. $300, plus interest. Comes to nearly $500 now. That's a lie. She paid you every cent. Did she? He shrugged. No receipts, no proof. My word against yours. The kitchen door swung open. Asa filled the frame, his presence heavy as stone. His storm-gray eyes swept the room. Eden, frozen at the table. Silas smiling like a man, with all the cards, kitchens closed to customers. Asa said, voice low. Ah, the infamous Asa Crow. Silas purred. I've heard of you, Confederate scout. Man of few words, fewer friends. That's right. Asa stepped forward, placing himself between Eden and Rook. His right hand hung loose, but Eden noticed the shift of weight in his stance. A fighter ready, time for you to go. Quote, Of course, Silas said lightly, but his eyes glittered with hate. I'm a reasonable man. I'll give Miss Hale 30 days to settle her mother's account. After that, well, accidents do happen. Her mother learned that. Be a shame if history repeated itself. He tipped his hat mockingly and left, leaving the smell of pomade and menace behind. The moment he was gone, Eden collapsed into a chair, arms wrapped around herself. Her body shook as though the cold fire of that night years ago had found her again. You know him, Asa said quietly. He killed her. Her voice was flat. He locked the doors of the boarding house where she worked. Said it was for protection. When the fire came, they couldn't get out. She swallowed hard. 7 women burned alive. My mother was one of them. Asa poured her coffee, the simple act grounding her. She borrowed money to bury my father, paid it back twice over in labor. But Silas never gave receipts. After the fire, he came for me with the same paper. Said I could work it off like she did. So you ran, and he always finds me. Eden wiped her eyes, stood, and faced Asa. I'll leave tonight. I won't bring this to your door. You'll stay. Her eyes widened. Mr. Crow. Asa, he corrected, sitting across from her. You'll stay because running hasn't worked. You'll stay because the Silver Comet needs a cook. And you'll stay because men like Rook don't get to win forever. You don't understand. He owns judges, sheriffs. He buys the law. The law is what men make it out here. Means something different than in his city courts. Asa leaned back, calm but steady. 30 days. A lot can happen in 30 days. What are you suggesting? That you finish that bread before it burns? That you serve supper like nothing's changed? And tomorrow, we pay a visit to Sheriff Epps. The Sheriff Eden gave a bitter laugh. He's older than Moses and half as useful. Maybe. But he's still got one thing. Rook doesn't. What's that? A conscience. That evening, Eden worked in the kitchen, hands steady, but her heart heavy. She served beans, cornbread, and pie. Jeb, the prospector, joked. Scarlett, the saloon girl, winked. But Eden noticed more now. Asa's coat hung loose enough to hide a shoulder holster. He always stood where he could see both doors. Men gave him space without knowing why. Near closing, a package arrived. Brown paper, tied with twine. Her name scrawled across the top. Inside was half of her mother's apron, scorched, smelling faintly of smoke. Wrapped inside was the broken half of her wooden spoon, the part buried with her mother. A note slipped out. Found this where she rests. Thought you'd want it. Our Eden's breath caught. He had dug up her mother's grave. Asa appeared at her side, silent as ever. His eyes hardened as he read the note. Lock your door tonight. Third step creaks. Anyone comes up, you'll hear Eden nodded, but she knew. Silas was escalating. He wouldn't stop. And now Asa Crow stood in his way. Tomorrow Dry Willow would wake to find itself caught in a storm neither Eden nor Asa could outrun. The package was only the beginning. By the week's end, windows at the Silver Comet were shattered, Eden's laundry slashed to ribbons, and the minister's stable mysteriously burned. Silas Rook's message was clear. Anyone who stood with Eden would pay the price. Some townsfolk whispered about leaving. Others dug in deeper. The tension in Dry Willow tightened like a noose. Then one night, Eden woke, choking on smoke. Flames crawled up the kitchen wall. For one wild moment, she thought it was the fire again. The fire that stole her mother. But this time, Asa Crow was there, pulling her down the stairs, shouting for water. Together with townsfolk, they fought the blaze until dawn. The Silver Comet still stood, but its walls were blackened, its roof scarred. This wasn't an accident, Asa said grimly. Rook poured coal oil on the walls. Eden stared at the charred wood, her fists clenched. Then he wants war. He'll have one. The next morning she found Asa behind the stables, bottles lined on the fence. He handed her a revolver. You said you were done running. Then learn. Her first shot went wide. The second chipped glass. By the third, she found the rhythm he taught her. Breathe, sight, squeeze. When a bottle exploded into shards, Asa's storm-gray eyes softened. You've got a steady hand. My father taught me, she whispered. Said a woman alone should know how to bite. As the days passed, Eden's aim grew sharper, and so did her resolve. She began asking quiet questions about debts, receipts, missing girls. Stories surfaced. Women vanished from boarding houses. Families lost land to impossible loans. It wasn't just her mother. Silas Rook had built an empire of cruelty, and Eden wasn't the only victim left standing. Then a frightened girl stumbled into the Comet one night, 16 at most, barefoot and bleeding. Mina Pike. She had escaped Rook's ranch, where a dozen women were kept as servants, paying debts that only grew. Among the papers she carried was a photograph of her mother with Eden's own, the words scrawled on the back, sisters in all but blood. Belongs to no man. The truth slammed into Eden. Her mother hadn't fought Rook alone. Other women had tried, and most had died for it. But now Eden had proof. Witnesses. Allies. We have to free them, Eden said, voice trembling with fire. That's not a rescue. Asa warned, that's a war. Then it's time for one whispers spread through Dry Willow. Scarlet from the Red Door Saloon trained women to fight. The blacksmith forged iron into weapons. Even Sheriff Epps, old and weary, left a spare rifle by accident in Eden's kitchen. By Sunday, the town was ready. At noon, Silas Rook rode in with 12 armed men. His velvet coat was gone, replaced with trail gear, his face scarred from fire. He called out from the edge of town, voice dripping poison, Eden, hail. You've taken everything from me. Face me now, or I burn this place to ash! The townsfolk stood ready in windows and rooftops, rifles aimed. Eden stepped into the street, Asa beside her. The desert sun glared down. Merciless! This town stands with me, Silas. She called. You won't win here, he sneered pretty words. But words don't stop bullets. He raised his hand. His men shifted. Think, Rook. Asa said evenly, count the rifles. 12 of you, a whole town against. Poor odds, but Silas's pride was too deep. Then we settle it. You and me, Asa Crow. Single combat. Winner takes all. Eden grabbed Asa's arm. You don't have to. Yes, I do, he said softly. This is my choice, the sheriff's bell tolled. Both men drew. 2 shots cracked as one. Silas's bullet kicked up dust at Asa's feet. Wild, fueled by rage. Asa's aim was true. His shot struck Rook's shoulder, spinning him down to the dirt. His gun clattered from his hand. It's over, Asa said. Silas's men dropped their weapons, seeing the town against them. Sheriff Epps moved forward, wheezing but steady. You'll face trial, Rook, for every crime, but weeks later, word came back. Silas had walked free, bought by corrupt judges. Eden stared at the news in silence, then tied on her apron. Then we finish this, not with bullets this time, with truth. With Asa, Mina, and the women he had enslaved, she carried evidence to Phoenix. Testimonies, forged deeds, ledgers hidden in his home. This time, the law higher than territorial judges listened. Silas Rook signed a full confession, naming names across 3 territories. His empire crumbled. When he was led away in chains, Eden felt the weight on her chest finally lift. For once, the fire had not taken everything. It had forged something stronger. Back in Dry Willow, the Silver Comet became more than a saloon. It became a place of safety, where broken women found work, where laughter returned, where community replaced fear. Mina ran the kitchen with pride. Asa wore the sheriff's star, steady as always by Eden's side. One night, as dawn crept pink over the desert, Eden leaned against him, tired but unbroken. Don't stop till sunrise, she whispered, echoing a promise born of fire and struggle. I won't. Asa swore not this sunrise. Not any. The desert stretched before them, dangerous but honest. And together they faced it, partners, not prey, ready for whatever came next.